Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cecil's Unknown Achievers. This is the 5th episode. Thanks to those of you who have been listening. If you're a new listener, Cecil's Unknown Achievers is all about those hardworking entrepreneurs you've never heard of. Today's guest comes from a specialty niche of the printing industry. I've known him personally for years because we used to work together way back in the day. During the time we were working for those companies that were owned by somebody else, I've always known him to have an entrepreneurial heart, meaning that even though he didn't own the company, he still treated the work and his customers as his own. My guest today is Brian Ormiston, and he's the owner of Augusta Label. They provide unique and creative solutions for all sorts of label and packaging needs. Brian, welcome to Cecil's Unknown Achievers.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. I know you are busy. You got a lot of stuff going on, so definitely appreciate the time.
No problem. So it's great to be here.
To start off, just expand on my intro and tell us what Augusta Label is all about.
Well, we're kind of a niche player in the label and packaging part of the business. You know, our background goes back in the days where we were working for the merchant channel on the sheet-fed market of pressure-sensitive labels. I kind of evolved into the manufacturing side, and then went into working for a roll label guy that we kind of transitioned into the digital phase of things, maybe 10 years ago. What this has evolved to is like I said before, a niche market on the packaging side. So what we do here at Augusta is we put shrink sleeves, we apply shrink sleeve print and apply shrink sleeves that go on everything from the craft brewers 12, 16-ounce cans to a lot of the distilleries bottles. The hot new trend right now is to put a shrink sleeve on a bottle. And we do an awful lot with, believe it or not, the pet care industry. In this crazy times we're living in right now, the pet care industry it's just exploded. So I've got more dog shampoo skids on the floor than I ever thought I'd ever see. I know more about the pet care industry by osmosis at this point, so it's kind of cool. And we with this gig economy or with these small entrepreneurs, I use the pet care industry as an example. Most of my end customers never see the product. It comes into me filled, unlabeled containers. We label them with the shrink sleeve on there, ship them to folks like Chewy. We ship to Amazon every day in skids as well as UPS, and it gets out there. The cool thing about the shrink sleeve market is we have the ability to put a safety seal on these bottles. And right now, Amazon is requiring all these small little producers to put a safety seal. So when you see a bottle that comes up that has a shrink sleeve on the top, we can put a zipper on that top part of that shrink sleeve and a horizontal perf that comes off when the consumer gets it, and then the body of the shrink sleeve stays intact, so they know exactly what they have.
So you're doing some value-added things other than just putting the label on the actual container.
Yeah, I mean, it's with Amazon being the big cheese in with all these guys, they're driving the bus, and Walmart is also doing it too. We ship some stuff into Walmart and things like that for these customers, but they like this safety seal option because if it's in the warehouse, it won't leak. If by chance, the consumer then knows nothing's been tampered with, which is really big these days. That just gives them these small players the ability to compete in the national scale that the big boys are already doing.
All right. So I want to get into more detail about, exactly what you're doing and, how you're differentiating Augusta Label from the competitors out there. But taking it back to when you were working for the other companies, whether it's, in the sheet-fed market, what was going on then that gave you the vision or the spark in your head to look toward doing this?
Um, you know, I guess it's just a culmination of all the years of being on the street. It's, when you're out on the street and you're a sales guy, it's the most purest form of an entrepreneurship. I mean, when we were back on the sheet fed market, we were straight commission guys. I enjoy being a straight commission guy. I always thought if I could get it done in 30 hours a week and earn a good living and find another 10 hours to go play golf or do something else or hang out with my family, I'm beating the system. I'm still providing good service to my employer, making a good amount of dough for my family, and I'm doing a nice little balancing act. And that kind of starts the ball rolling. And then as you get older and you start, everybody, I've got two sons in their mid 20s, and they, like all kids that age, they think they know it all. But I look back on when we were that age, and boy, we didn't know anything. Maybe even when I was 30 or even 40, I don't think I'd have had what it takes to do what I'm doing now. Because as I tell people, it's the best 7-day a week job I've ever had. I mean, there's days. Last night I got out of here about 9 o'clock. It's a little different because we've just recently moved, but I think everything that you do that leads up to the finally taking this leap into the small business market, you need to have a lot of experience, spilled a lot of blood on the street, learned a lot of lessons, because nothing will ever prepare yourself for this. And I still learn something new every day, and it's fantastic,
Well, they say when you love what you're doing, you're not really working.
It really is true, you really have to keep throughout your 20s and 30s. You have to really search for what you want to do. And believe me, I didn't come out of college thinking, "Boy, I want to be in the sticky paper business." And then it just kind of evolved that way. But do my sons want to be in this business? I don't know. Maybe they do when they get a little older. But I think we've got a really unique little niche of the market here that every day is different. I mean, it's crazy, all the different projects we that evolve, that makes it such a fun day to come to work with. Because like I say, every day is totally different.
You threw out a couple terms, and I know you and I know these terms, but when you say sheet fed, what are you referring to? Because I know a lot of folks listen don't come from the industry like you and I do. So
Yeah, well, and so okay, so the sheet fed printing market is basically, if you go into a Kinko's or you go into a smaller print shop, those are all driven by sheet fed equipment, where the material, be it pressure sensitive or just plain C1S litho label stock, comes into the print shop on skids in a sheet fed form. The majority of the label business, be it shrink sleeve or pressure sensitive sticky paper, is printed in a roll to roll form. So when you go to I don't know, there's 1,000 different applications, but it starts in a roll form that's 52 inches long, wide, gets slit down at the mill. The printer in Elk Grove or in Burr Ridge here prints it either 13 inches wide primarily, and then prints it in a master roll, and then it gets slit down and rewound to a smaller roll that the consumer sees. And that's where the market is. And that market, both on the sheet and on the roll side, has evolved to digitally printed, a transition within the last 7 to 10 years. And it's really transformed the market. And if a printer right now is not thinking digital, they're left behind.
how far back? Because I know for years before you started this in our conversations that you were bringing this up, this business that you have now. When did it get birthed?
Um, you know, I would say 15 years ago, I had, we work for a couple of guys that you always go back and you say, you know what, I can do it better than you are, because you're not treating your employees well. You're not treating, your vendors well, and the customers see that. And so again, you go back to the sales part of it. You see that from all end, because if you don't have, for instance, when we were back on the Jefferson Street, we had a receptionist that was the salesperson's lifeblood, but the customers would call in and they'd love to talk to Pat.
Sure.
Okay. And Pat was our lifeline. I kissed her ass at every possibility because she could either make me or break me. And if she was in a bad mood, the customers knew it, and that became if that happened, boy, that affected everybody from the customer service to the salesperson to the guy in the warehouse because everybody had a bad day then. And and I just always kind of thought, well, if I ever do this, I want to make sure I take care of the front end as well as I take care of the back end. And then so, before I started this, I worked for a couple guys that I knew in the past. We converted them to digital, and we kind of had this 5-year deal. And they were getting older, and they were admittedly running out of gas, and they were looking for a plan B. And I said, well, let's get this thing rolling. I built the sales up from scratch, primarily with this craft brewing market when the craft brewers started to kind of explode in the Chicago market. And before that, it started with a lot of the craft wineries in the market.
Hmm.
So, you kind of gravitate to what wine and beer. And I figured, it couldn't be that bad a day, right?
You do know your
So
wine, though.
I do know my wine. Yeah, yeah. And so the 5 years evolved. And again, when you're on that, and it's a smaller company, about $3 million in sales. And when you kind of do and see every part of the company, you go, okay, I might do this better. I might do this better. How would I change this? So finally, the 5 years kind of came up, and we were in a little standoff as far as bonuses on sales, in addition to sales over the last year. And they just, they were in the point where you're making more money than we are. And back to the old, like, I, I'm driving the bus here and I'm giving you, without me, you don't have, $1 million in sales. Long story short, the one partner said, okay, let me give you the books. And I looked at the books and they were just upside down in every different way. And I went to guys that were smarter than I am and said, all right, if you had this, could we get the money to buy these guys out? And they said, not a damn chance. So I said, well, a 5-year deal is off the table. We're in trouble. We're not going to work on that. And that kind of said, okay, what do I want to do in the next 10 or 15 years that is going to keep me motivated and excited? And as you know, now, especially, when you get in past your 50s, you become less viable for one reason or another to employers, and you're easy to get rid of. And I'm
Understood.
like, pardon me?
No, understood. I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, right. So I didn't want to be that guy because I thought I had a lot of good years of excitement in the industry. I had a lot of things I still wanted to do. So I'm like, how do I leverage this? And so luckily I have a very understanding wife, and we talked about it, and I put a plan together, and I went after it. And it started out primarily with the desire to start slowly, broker a lot of printing business to start with, add some equipment, and go from there. And then what happened is the shrink sleeve market was in its infancy, and we pivoted, brought a machine in that will apply the shrink sleeves to the bottles and cans, and just kind of started figuring it out, you know. And this was four and a half, 5 years ago when the shrink sleeve market kind of started in earnest from a smaller scale, and the craft brewers were going from bottles that are tough to move around, they're heavy, they're expensive, and they're not very environmentally and friendly, to cans. And so we just kind of evolved that way and started putting shrink sleeves on the brewers and for breweries, and it just kind of evolved from there.
So it was a gradual process. And one of the things I know when I talk to folks who started businesses and some who are, working a full-time job and doing their business on the side is they have that moment or period in time where they're thinking, I need to devote all of my time to my passion.
Yeah,
Yet you have the almost a question in your head as what about the security of the full-time job? So tell
no
me
doubt.
what was going through your head And how were you
Oh,
challenged during that time for you?
well, I can remember the day I took my younger son Patrick to college his freshman year. We were driving up to Kenosha. He went to Carthage, and I told him, "Hey, I'm going to quit my gig and start Augusta Label." And he kind of looked at me. He kind of went, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going to do it." I said, "Been working on this, the plan for about 6 months. Not happy doing what I'm doing. Your mother signed off on this, and here we go." And I can remember I've got a pretty good network of guys that are older than I am, that are, again, much smarter than I am, that I went to and said, "All right, this is what I want to do. Help me out. Give me your advice. How did you do what you did when you started your company?" And I remember I was playing golf with this guy, and we were we're walking down the fairway, and I telling him what I'm doing. He goes, and I was about 50 at that point, and he goes, "Ray Kroc started McDonald's at 50." I went, "Okay," and he started listing all these other guys that started their businesses, when they're over
Sure.
40, 45. And I went, "Well, Ray Kroc didn't know it all when he started. So, you know what? If they can turn McDonald's into what it was, maybe I've got a half a chance here." And we started, and we've just, we do, it's cliche to say, but we try and make sure we take care of the customer. And that's kind of where, when I was trying to name the company, Augusta Label came from, because obviously there's the golf hook, but Augusta in the Masters tournament is something where they've figured it all out, and they take customer service for the player that plays in the Masters tournament, or the, as they call it, patron that goes down to view it, be it for one day or for all 4 days. They treat you with service like you just, it's never, it's unparalleled.
Hmm.
And I thought, if I could just do a fraction of what they do well, I'm going to have happy customers. And like I say, it's cliche. Oh, the customer's always first, and blah blah blah. Customer, but the customer does drive the bus. And if you take care of the customer when they have a problem, when they call in or they send you an email, you're beating three-quarters of the competition. I truly believe that, because there's vendors, and that I deal with. There's customers that I've had that guys just don't get back to you. I've got a guy right now sitting on my desk where we moved in the last couple of weeks. I called him to fix our air compressor, and he came in 2 days after I called him. Okay, and this was Friday, and here it is. It's a Wednesday, and I called him since then. I still don't have the quote. And you're like, if I got to find somebody else, because if you can't get me a quote, how are you gonna do how are you gonna,
Are you going to do the job?
right? So it's just basic blocking and tackling like that. You're like, "Listen, I'm not the smartest guy out here, but man, you just got to cross the T's and dot some of these I's, and you're going to be pretty good." You
Simple as
know,
returning a phone call sometimes.
it is. I mean, if you have to stick around a little bit later and make sure that the phone calls return, because listen, right now, today, there is no 9 to 5. There is no standard business hours. I get calls from my brewers at 8 o'clock at night. I've got one customer that runs their business out of the Philippines. They're 13 hours ahead of us. So I'm getting emails at all hours, but you got to answer them. Even
Sure.
if you do a, "Hey, I'll call you back tomorrow" type of thing.
That's what separates those who excel and those who don't. So that kind of leads me into this. The industry that you're in it's been around for a long time. There's a number of other players, and customers have choices, of
Yeah,
course.
for
What
sure.
do you feel first brings them to Augusta Label, and what keeps them coming back?
Well, there's always going to be people, my competitors, that do it bigger and faster. And as a result, they're going to be a little bit more, price competitive. Um, be it buying better than I do. There's customers, competitors that buy. If I buy a half a truckload of cans, they may be able to buy 5 truckloads of cans. It's a cash flow issue. They're going to get a better price, whatever. I like, we treat every order that comes in here individually, because when you're brewing a beer or you're making wine, everything that goes in that bottle is got your stamp on it. And I want to make sure that we put our stamp on everything, because when it hits you, and if you've got a crushed can or you've got a broken bottle or that label isn't on straight, well, that reflects poorly on me and us and my guys. I'll give you a prime example. We had a customer in California. We shipped 6 skids to a trucking company. I hate, truckers and graphic designers are the biggest problems in this business. The trucking company flipped these skids, and if you flip a load of cans, they're just destroyed.
Yeah.
So we finally got back here, and we've spent the last 3 days sorting through them to get him his cans back, because he's got beer in the tank. He's got to get it out. So we went through every single one of these 4 skids to make sure each can is right, because each can somewhere down the line is going to hit the consumer. And if it hits the consumer and the label isn't right, well, you know what? That reflects poorly on my customer, and he's going to come back to me and say, Brian, you guys didn't do a good job here. So that's kind of the theory behind it. We'll do smaller jobs and tackle some of these new startups before they get big, in the hopes that we build a relationship with them. We start them when they want 500 cans, we'll do that for them. And then when they want 10,000 or 20,000 cans, I hope we do a good enough job where they're going to come back to us,
Sure. Who's in your wheelhouse? Who's the ideal customer, or is there one?
We're so all over the board, from craft coffee makers to some of these smaller distilleries, to the smaller upstart folks in the private label pet industry, and all the craft brewers out there. The craft brewers right now are surviving on cans, and primarily with the 32-ounce crawlers that, if you go into the tap room, and you get into the tap room these days, you have a beer at the bar and you say, hey, I want to take this home. They'll fill this 32-ounce crawler right there, seam it, and you can take it home. So what happens is we bring in the cans, put the shrink sleeves on them. We're shipping them all over the country based on their design. And, if they want 500, they want 2,000, we'll ship it to them. So they're basically trying to stay afloat, because if you're a small guy, in the Midwest, you're anywhere between 25% open in Chicago to 40% open in the suburbs. And listen, at 40%, you're barely covering your light bills, and you're barely staying alive. So right now, no one's hardly going in the restaurants. So your tap business, your keg business is dead. So if you can't survive without in the distribution market where you're selling 16-ounce cans, the only way you're going to do it is with these crawlers. And that's how a lot of guys are staying awake and staying afloat.
Yeah, they're, especially during this time.
Yeah, and it's, we're going to go through the next 3 or 4 weeks when it starts getting cold, and it's going to be really interesting to see who can hang in there, because right now, traditionally, it starts to slow down till St. Patrick's Day. And, if Lori Lightfoot isn't going to open the city up and let these guys try and survive, they're just going to fold the tents up and they're not going anywhere. I mean, right now, if you're in a restaurant business, you got a 50% chance of making it to Thanksgiving. And I'm telling you, it's sad. It's brutally tough out there. And I don't think the governor of Illinois or the mayor of Chicago, they understand how tough it is out there, because most of the landlords for these breweries, they've given their guys concessions, but you can only do it so long. And right now, the taxes and the hoops that these breweries in downtown Chicago have to jump just so they can get a tent outside is horrible. And and when it gets cold, no one's going to want to sit out in a tent with a heater going when it's 20 degrees out.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that's handled.
And everybody's got to stay safe, and no one in the industry wants their customers to stay safer than the restaurant business, because one customer that gets sick or infects their staff, they're shut down. So these people are taking extraordinary precautions. Their costs are going up with it. They've put on more staff to sell a quarter or a 40% of the beer they're selling before, or food. And they just can't sustain it that long. No one can run their business at 40% at the most and sustain themselves,
How has the pandemic affected you and your daily running of your place? How many employees do you have?
We've got and it's kind of a moving target. We have 4 full-time employees, and we have about 6 part-time guys. I've got part-timers that didn't go back to college, that are taking online classes at home, that are working for me in the afternoon in a second shift. I've got the high schoolers that we do that have always worked for me, that are they're we're working from on the Zoom, and they're now, some of them are starting to go back, but they don't have any. They got a lot of time on their hands. I've got a good group of guys that are hustling and want to work, and so I've got more work than I can give them. I mean, we're very, very, knock on wood, fortunate that we were in the right spot at the right time, set up to handle this, and things took off very nicely. And when the governor back in March shut things down, I was in the office all weekend with my accountant and a lawyer to figure out, am I a necessary business? How am I going to keep my employees' families fed and employed? I was freaking out. I didn't.
I would imagine,
because as everybody knows, when they invest themselves in this business, you have everything you own in this business, and you've got families that have kids, and that's really, that weighs heavily every night on you. And to say, hey, I got to get rid of these guys because I just can't do it. I was doing everything I could to figure out how important we are. I had a press release that I was ready, that I sent to my employees, so when they were going to come back Monday, if they got stopped by the police that they were going somewhere they shouldn't, they were going to say, hey, we are an integral business. But then Monday morning came, and it was almost like, well, nothing's changed.
Right.
Employees can come in, no one was checking. And then as the weeks went on, everyone was kind of like, well, the companies that weren't of necessary, they had to shut down. We were fortunate that we had a lot of important business, that the restaurant business and the brewing business, that were consistent, that were deemed essential, and we were allowed to stay open, and our business, mostly to this Crowler situation we were talking about before, took off like I never anticipated. So,
well, I'm my hope and hope of a lot of people, of course, is that these businesses are able to slowly open up more, and people stay healthy,
right.
and this corona virus gets beat to death, where it's just non-existent. But that's going to be determined by how well people obey the rules and
right.
distancing and all that.
I think it's, I don't care you could be on either side of the fence with the Democrats or Republicans on this, but people just, people just have to be smart. I got
Common
a
sense.
our age that went to a wedding in Indiana where there was 180 people at this wedding, and I'm thinking, and he got sick. I'm thinking, well, you're a knucklehead. What were you thinking? Okay,
Yeah.
that's just not smart. And the mask, I hate the damn masks, but I'm wearing them. When I have to wear them, I'm wearing them.
Sure.
Do I wear them in my car when I'm by myself? No. But if I go into a store, I wear it. I don't like it, but I wear it out of respect for people I'm around.
Sure.
And myself. I don't want to get sick either. If I get sick, we've got some problems around here. So, I think we just have to be smart about it, and let's not make this political. Let's just be smart, and we're going to get through it. And
Thank you.
and down the line, I truly believe, and as a small business owner, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that the future is going to be better than the past. And that's the optimism you have to relay to your employees and your customers, even though yeah, I know I'm going to lose, 25% of my customers because I don't know if these guys are going to hang on. And it
Hmm.
scares me, because as you know, these become your friends, yeah, and your circle, and they're in the same boat as you are.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can rebound and, get things back to, I guess, the new normal, as they say, and go
Yeah.
back to the old normal.
I mean,
But
I don't know if we're ever going to be elbow to elbow and shoulder to shoulder watching.
not for a little while anyway.
Right. Well, whoever replaces Eddie Van Halen or any of those guys, but I mean, I think those days, like you say, the new normal, it's going to be different. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, our kids aren't going to, like I say, go to these concerts, and the day of going down to Soldier Field and seeing the Stones play or anybody else play in on the infield or on the field, that ain't going to happen. Not for as long as we can remember.
Not for a little while.
No,
So
no.
so switching gears here a little bit. You talked a little bit about customers, and you inherited a small book of business, I guess, from the previous guys, and you obviously your sales efforts built it up to the level that it was that you were able to invest in it and purchase it.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of other things that you got to do operationally now. How are you going about acquiring new customers?
Well, if I could give one piece of advice to any new startup is learn Google Ads. My wife has done a great job. We kind of tasked her with that. We advertise on Google. We don't spend a lot of money in comparison, but that is the new normal. And if you don't understand how to work Google Ads, you are going to be left behind. Print advertising is dead. My father, who was in print advertising, is probably rolling over in his grave. But I'm just telling you, anyone calls me for a print ad, there's just no way you can match the massive reach that Google has. I charted last year that we had shipped, our small little company had shipped to 45 of the continental states in the U.S. That's crazy. And we with Google, we're shipping to Stevens Point, Wisconsin. We're shipping to California. We're shipping into Colorado. We're shipping into Delaware. Everywhere. It's and the only way I can reach that, and again, because I have a niche market, you're able to pinpoint. If you look for crawlers and you Google crawlers, we're going to come up. We're going to come up in that first page, and it's going to point you to our website and give you our information, and you're going to reach out. We chart our Google performance every month. Google, it's you, even as a small business person, you will have your own Google rep, and they call you, and they may not harass you, but they make sure you know how to optimize your performance on Google.
Now,
And
in addition to that, is there still a need, or maybe there isn't, for beating the street like you had done in the past?
oh, for sure. And but here's the interesting thing that's taken, especially in the local market. You have to be on the street because if a customer has a problem, I've always felt, and I've always done, they want to see you. And maybe if they want to rip you a new one, they want to do something, they need to vent, they need to know you're on top of it. The new sales technique, at least I've employed, is I'm delivering a lot of my local customers' orders if I can. We've got a pickup truck where we strap. You look, watch us on social media. We strap these cans to the back of the pickup truck if it's less than 4 or 5 thousand, and we deliver them. The great thing about that is when you deliver an order, you're going in the back door, so you're seeing the guys that are mostly affected with your product
Sure.
foremost. So you meet them if you don't already know them. And then they're going to tell you things that their boss isn't going to tell you. And then when you go up through the back into the front office, they're gonna see you because you've helped them out. You've stayed, and I don't we don't charge for that shipping. If we have to bring a truck in, I'll charge for the shipping. But you've done them a favor by saving them $150 in shipping costs or $125, and they're gonna talk to you. So that's kind of changed the sales call totally, at least for us.
So you still got the little, even though there's a lot of internet marketing, there's still that little personal touch.
You have to touch everybody, and that's the people buy from people they're familiar with, and it's unfortunate the our kids generation, they they want to do everything on the internet, and that generation will spend all day trying to save 5 cents, and if they want to kick tires all day long, Augusta Label's not the joint to be partnered with. But if you want, someone to pick the phone up and call you back when you need it, call you back when you have a problem. If you call here Saturday mornings, someone will probably get back to you because we're usually here. They need to know there's someone at the end of the line. And I get a lot of leads from my competitors because my competitors just don't pick the darn phone up, which is fine by us.
Sure.
Yeah. It's not rocket scientists.
You've got a lot of experience, not only working for other companies, now working for yourself. Talk about some of the decisions you've made since you've been on your own that you feel were great, and maybe some that you felt were not so great.
Employees are always the toughest part. We had a guy in here for a couple years. He was a Marine in the Marine Reserves. I knew that. We embraced it. He started with us from an employment agency. We use an employment agency when we can't network locally. And we accommodated him on his weekends gone. And then 2 to 3 weeks during the middle of the summer when they had to go on their deployment. He was a good guy. He had an alcohol problem that we addressed. I brought one of our friends in that has gone through that to try and help him. He got arrested a couple times, and you become, and then when he was sober and a good worker, he was a good guy, and he had a child. We watched it. We knew him from before when he was single. He was still single. They never got married. But anyways, long story short, so he just couldn't find his way. He became belligerent with other employers or other employees. He was a little violent when he was away, and he was having some problems. We did everything we could to help this guy. And he finally came in my office one day and just said he needed about an exorbitant raise or he's going to leave. And he figured out pretty quick that he's very replaceable. And it was tough to let him go because, again, I think when he was in his right place, he was a great guy. He had a kid. He was. We wanted to help him out. We became friends, and he just was in a bad spot, made a bad move, and we had to let him go. And we didn't do a good enough job training the other employees because his leverage, he thought, was, I have all the knowledge, and you guys can't live without me, so you're gonna give me this raise. Out of principle, that wasn't going to happen if I had to go back and run the machine myself, which I did. But in hindsight, it was the best thing for us because instead of one guy knowing everything and training everyone else, we've now put a manual together for training, and we've let everybody learn how to run our machine and what we do around here. So did we have a couple rough weeks? Sure, we did. But in the long run, we're a stronger company for it. We've got better employees. We've got a better vibe around here now. And you don't know some of these mistakes you make until you've rectified them down the line and you've come out on the other end, So that was, that's been real good. And, some of the other things I've done, I think, well, is making good friends with the FedEx and UPS drivers, They are the lifeblood, much like the person that answers the phone. I continue to make mistakes all day long, but I think we learn from them. And when we do make a mistake that the customer sees, we check it. We get jump on it real quick. I mean,
they're only mistakes if you don't learn from them.
Exactly. And, like when we have problems with a freight company and a freight company damages our cans, and the customer's like, well, I'm 150 short, days were damaged. I just credit them out, and I will start the month-long process to get our money back from the freight company. But I want the customer to know that, hey, he handled this quickly. I don't have a reason not to go back to him for the next order because we're square. Every once in a while I let him know, hey, a month later I'm still dealing with this credit, but hey, it's just I want to make sure they know we take care of them. And again, I learned that the hard way. You've done it too. If you don't take care of these guys, they're gonna, they're gonna remember it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Are you fully in the new facility now?
Yeah, we spent about 4 or 5 weeks transitioning from our old facility, which was we've almost doubled our space. The timing was right with this facility. Was vacant for about 9 months. I'm on with the same landlord. He put a ton of dough into this place. We've put a lot of money into this place in the move and getting it up to speed. And the dust is almost settled. One thing I learned in our smaller facility, and I talked to a guy that when this came up that has been through it before me. And I said, well, how did you know when was the right time to move? And he goes, there's only two things you got to worry about. He goes, either you need more concrete or you need more iron, meaning, you need more space or you
Mhm.
need more equipment. And he goes, if you don't have enough concrete, you can't bring in more iron. So I said, okay. And again, we make our move. It's a leap of faith. We ran the numbers. Yeah, I think we're gonna be fine with the trend we got going on. We're gonna hustle hard to make sure the business we have continues to grow. And we've got a second shift going on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and then we work on Saturdays. But our workflow, we probably picked up an hour and a half a day from not moving inventory 2 and 3 times before it got to the machine.
So a little more efficiency with
Oh,
the new
yeah,
space.
yeah. And just from an organization side of things, we are just immensely more organized than we were.
With all that you got going on, man, I know you still make time for golf. But what do you do when you kick back? You still got the wine cellar?
Still got the wine cellar. I made my neighbor who was the HVAC guy that helped us move. We made some wine last year. He made it this year. I couldn't do it this year. We're in the waning weeks of the golf season. It's all encompassing. And I think, when I get home, we kind of, Megan and I kind of, my wife, we kind of recap what's going on. And man, I'm in the rack by 10:30 and I'm up at 5:30 the next morning. So, we're in a tough phase the last couple months and probably another month, before we can get things settled. We're going to get there. And, I miss with all this going on, with everyone's at home, I miss going out to dinner all the time. But we put a pizza oven in a year or so ago. We do that all the time, and it's just kind of the boys come back in town, the neighbors come back, smaller groups. We cook a little pizza and just have a little fun, and I think that's the new norm right now. Especially when the winter kicks in here. I've got a neighbor in the complex that they used to supply fruits and vegetables to the restaurant industry. Well, now they've pivoted and they're supplying fruits and vegetables for home delivery. So we've taken that, and my wife's got all these new vegetables that we never thought we had that existed. She's eating most of them. I'm eating a few of them. But so
Okay.
everyone's turned into homebodies, and I guess that's good. It's tough for the restaurant industry because everyone's kind of changed their patterns.
Right.
So,
Well, folks, if you didn't know from the golf references and the name of the company, Brian's an avid golfer. So that's where the Augusta comes from. It's been a long time since I've been to the house, but that the putting green is
but the
still
putting
there.
green and the sand trap is still there. And,
Yeah.
with all this going on, I spent a lot more time chipping and putting just to kind of keep, if I can go out to the putting green and chip and putt a few as it gets dark at night and kind of clear the head, that's all you really kind of need. Everyone kind of needs that outlet to just kind of clear the head and, keep the damn TV off and keep the radio off and keep politics out of it and, keep off the phone. I mean, I think, right now I'm watching too much politics. I'm on that dang phone all the time. It's just good golf is great because it's just as a one guy said, it's a good walk spoiled. But you get an opportunity to clear your head, stop thinking about everything you got to get done or your things you didn't get done. And I think that's what makes me strong in the morning, come back and be a good boss for my employees and be a good supplier to my customers.
All right. So as we wrap it up here, what's the most important thing people should know about you and Augusta Label?
Um, we started again. It's cliche, but that we treat the customer. There's a quote out there that there's only the only thing you got to know about customers is there's the customer is always right, and if you don't believe the first rule, see rule two, and the rule two is uh, there is no rule two. Customer's always right,
Right.
and again, it's cliche. The customer in the end at the end of the day isn't always right, but they have to know that they are always right. And if you don't treat them like you want to be treated, they're going to go somewhere else. And you know what, we try and do that. And when we don't, and when we fail, especially for a small business person, it hurts. You internalize a lot of that stuff. So it doesn't happen in the big companies as much, but when you're in a small company and you fail, and it really it hurts, and it's tough not to take that home. But again, when you have the outlet of going hitting balls or sitting down on the patio, making a pizza, or just vegging out with a glass of wine, that's your relief at the end of the day, to kind of let everything flow through the system. And like I say, put all the nasty politics and the phone down for a little while.
Got to disconnect sometimes, man.
You know what it is. I mean, it's if I could just, take a couple days here and there, and I'm going to go on a little golf trip later in the month for a couple days just to get the head out of the game. And I think hopefully someday we'll get back to soon, so we can take a little vacation and not have to worry about, if I got to wear the mask on the airplane, if the city I'm going to is not going to let, if it's got problems. I mean, there's just a lot of stress going on in the world, and I'm hoping within the next 6 months or so is we're gonna get back to, like you say, somewhere near the new norm.
Well, Brian, I appreciate you taking the time, my man. It was good talking
Thank
to
you,
you.
buddy. It's great to reconnect and keep in touch, and I'm happy for anybody, if anyone's looking for any help. Again, I'll do whatever it takes, because again, I've had people that have helped me out. No one starts a business without help. You can reach me, just go on our website, send me an email. I'm more than happy to help. You can call me anytime.
Yeah, go ahead and give the website. How do people connect with you?
It's augustalabel.com, and there's a contact page in there. My cell phone's on there. By all means, reach out. And if I can help someone in some way, hey, that's what we're here for,
Cool. I had an idea, just maybe as a part two to this, is when you're all settled in the new facility, to come by and do like a little video tour of it, if you're up to that.
By all means. Yeah. We're not making pacemakers here, so there's no really mistakes. So by all means, let's do what we can to hopefully maybe help someone else down the line, and it's all good.
All right, cool.
Cool.
We'll be in touch about that. Thanks again, Brian.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks for listening to my chat with Brian Ormiston, owner of Augusta Label and Printing. Brian's a great entrepreneurial example of leveraging your existing knowledge and prior work experience into your own personal venture. Until next time, this is Cecil Archbold Jr. for Cecil's Unknown Achievers.